Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about Attorney General Merrick Garland's blistering criticism of Judge Eileen Cannon for her opinion dismissing the Mar-a-Lago indictment. All right, let me put this into context, the sort of first point. The Department of Justice generally is not in the business of personally assailing judges for their opinions. Sure, they'll say they were wrong and appeal them to the court, but to actually, publicly decry them is a whole nother thing. Second, if the Department of Justice were in the business of doing it, the Attorney General of the United States Department of Justice would not be a figure who would be taking the lead at making those criticisms. And third, if the Department of Justice were in the business of doing it, and some attorneys general were in the business of taking the lead, Attorney General Merrick Garland would not be one of those who would be out there cracking the whip against individual decisions. So this just tells you, A, that it's pretty extraordinary criticism, and certainly not, it was in an interview, with NBC News, and so would have been very carefully considered. And two, what it mainly tells you is just how completely off the reservation the Eileen Cannon opinion is. As I think I wrote fairly in my op-ed on the case, it doesn't even make sense to analyze it as law and say, oh, that third argument doesn't quite hold up because of such and such a precedent. It's just a political screed written to, in the voice of Clarence Thomas to please Donald Trump. That's what it is. All right. So let's go then to what Merrick Garland has to say. And by the way, if it weren't something like that, if it were asinine, if it were very political, if it were completely, inane in its legal reasoning, the department would just take the appeal and go forward and do its arguing in court. And that is especially true for Merrick Garland. All right. So not only is he in the game criticizing her in a public interview, but withering is this. For more than 20 years, says Judge Garland, I was a federal judge. Do I look like somebody who would make that basic mistake about the law? I don't think so. I mean, there's almost a kind of, and I say this admiringly, everyone knows I'm a big fan of the Attorney General. There's almost a sort of third grade quality of, I don't think so. Do I? This is how basic it is. I was a federal judge for more than 20 years. I would never make that kind of basic mistake. And he goes on to make the case, and it's just overwhelming that she is completely, is Cannon, out of step with court after court after court, beginning with the U.S. Supreme Court in the Nixon case, the Richard Nixon out of Watergate. So he says, our position is that it's constitutional and valid. Okay, that's fine. That's why we appealed. Okay, that's fine. I will say that this is the same process of appointing special counsel as was followed in the previous administration for special counsels Durham, special counsel Mueller, multiple special counsels over the decades, going back to Watergate and the special prosecutor in that case. And by the way, a little historical footnote here. Merrick Garland got his start in the DOJ as the special assistant to the Attorney General. He was the paradigmatic, well-scrubbed, hotshot just off to prestigious clerkships. And it was just at this period that he cut his teeth. So when he says that, he knows what he means. But until now, every single court, including the Supreme Court, that has considered the legality of a special counsel appointment has upheld it. So, it's not like she's going against the grain she's going against the entire fields of the law for years and years and years. So it's extraordinary kind of criticism. But then he ends with a point. You recall that some people have said, okay, let's file it with a U.S. attorney. And that way it's not a special counsel, and that way you get around the Eileen Cannon ruling, and you can refile it, and there's no delay, etc. And there would be a great advantage of there not being a delay. But what that line of argument overlooks, and importantly, is the Department of Justice's interest in the special counsel regulation, having it there to use it, and not just having it there as a general tool, but having it there as a bulwark for public confidence in the DOJ's work. Because when you have a naked conflict with someone on the other side of a political aisle, people could say, whether fairly or not, in fact, the DOJ would say unfairly. The DOJ would say, Merrick Garland would say, we couldn't prosecute anybody completely fairly. But he knows 100% if it's U.S. versus Donald Trump, that is going to alienate or at least make many people suspicious. So you need it. And for that reason, the department has insisted on going the appeal route, on taking Cannon's ruling on directly, getting it reversed. And even though that means more time, even though it was probably off any possibility already, but even though it means no chance of having any proceedings this year, if they had the next day filed it in another court with a U.S. attorney, possibly. But the DOJ has this lookout for the special counsel regulation, both for its own interests in being able to handle certain kinds of cases and for the public interest, which Merrick Garland cares about deeply, that the public have confidence and that the special counsel, because independent to some degree, isn't out there, that it be precisely not what Donald Trump says it is. So even though there would be a way, he gives Cannon's opinion obvious back of the hand, worse, slap with the back of the hand. They want to go appeal. They want to go to the 11th Circuit, notwithstanding all the time it takes. And by the way, the very distinct possibility that Donald Trump becomes president and they have to fold up their tent completely. But that's because of the DOJ's institutional role in protecting the special counsel regs. So Garland's not just peak, but kind of really strong pushback in very kind of elementary terms. I've been a judge for 20 years. Do I look like I would make that basic mistake about the law? I don't think so. Is not simply, a lot of people, I'm among them, feel like, personal resentment that a judge could so be in the tank as Cannon is for Trump. But it's the institutional interest that Garland is absolutely determined to protect, and that is that in order to promote the pot, you have to be able to try people from the other side of the aisle, and you want public confidence. And indeed, he came into a department really stripped of a lot of public confidence, and in some ways, it's the sort of first axiom of his rule was to restore the idea that the department works without fear or favor and can handle any case, including these sorts, with a special counsel. So that's why I think you see him thinking about it in a studied way, really coming after Cannon with what is, for the Attorney General of the United States, some very pungent criticism. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.